In the Flutter Bloc package, you can use Cubit or Bloc for state management. Of course, you can also use a mixture of the two. And there is a question about when to use Cubit and when to use Bloc. So let's first look at the characteristics of each. The advantage of Cubit is its simplicity. When creating Cubit, you just need to create a state and an externally exposed function that can change the state. On the other hand, when you create a block, you create states, events, and event handlers. Because of this, Cubit is easier to understand compared to Bloc and requires less code to create. On the other hand, the biggest advantage of Bloc is that you can know the sequence of state changes and what triggers these state changes, that is, an event. There's a lot of times where it is good to know what triggered a state change in your app. For example, it is possible to distinguish whether the logout cause of the logged in user is caused by the user pressing the logout button or automatically due to a timeout. When the result is the same but the cause is different, there is a definite advantage in being able to trace the cause. Another feature is the event transformation function. This can be very useful if you need to do some pre-work before handling the event in the event handler. For example, it's easier to apply a debounce function to reduce the search volume. Although there are many advantages of Bloc, I think that the simplicity of Cubit is a big advantage that can offset the advantages of Bloc in many cases. If you are not confident about using the event-driven approach or unsure which method is better to use, I would recommend starting with Cubit. Later, if the advantage of applying the event-driven approach is clearly highlighted, then refactor the code. And once you create an app with Cubit, refactoring it with Bloc doesn't require much work and isn't too difficult. The to-do and weather apps created in the next section are first created in Cubit and then refactored into Bloc, so you can quickly get used to converting Cubit to Bloc. I think you are now somewhat familiar with the concept of Flutter Bloc. Now let's start making apps.